All right. Hey, everybody. This is Salem Simon here with FJ Fowler Real Estate, and I'm with Eric Murrietta of Homeowners Financial Group. We're just on another episode of Conversation with Experts. Just wanted to get different perspectives out here to our sellers and our buyers, the people that's communicating in this real estate market. Here in Arizona, it is hot like firecrackers. And Eric and his team are working really hard getting information out to their buyers, and I'm just the middleman trying to make sure that everybody gets what they want. Eric has a great team, and we want to talk about today certain strategies that he used to kind of help prepare his buyers to be ready for this big purchase that they're about to have, and just kind of let them know the financial pitfalls. And he has a great tool that he has called the 10 Commandments. So straight out of the book of Murrietta, chapter 1, verse 1, talking about like the 10 Commandments for home buyers. Eric, before you answer, we go on to number one. Tell me a little bit about like your team and yourself so that they know where you're based out of and we can have some background from there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for having me come on and sharing. It's one of my favorite things to do. Since the beginning of my career, which has now spanned over a decade in this crazy financial field, I've always been someone that strives to educate and help people understand the process. I think it's, especially in a market like now, it's very difficult to find those people that'll take the time to educate you. And it's very important for us to continue to work with clients and help them understand the process of not just what buying a home means, but how does it impact your overall financial future, and how does it create this machine for you that can help you have wealth in the future. And so for me, it's a lot about, first starts with just educating on what is the loan, but also there's so much that goes into it. So I appreciate you tremendously for bringing me on and for letting us share, some 10 commandments that have really been born out of like different things that we've seen, pitfalls, right? So one of the greatest things, lessons that I've always learned is, when you run into a problem, what is the process to make sure that that problem doesn't happen again? Because if you do stuff like that, as with your sports background, right, you don't want to have the same problem. So you got to find the solution. So for me, every time we run into a problem, we go, okay, how's the problem? What's the solution so we don't have that? And what's the process of getting to that solution so that we don't run into those problems? And so the 10 Commandments were really kind of born out of circumstances that we've seen over the years, not just with me, but in the industry overall for borrowers. So yeah.
All right, cool. So thank you for segueing us into that. Verse 1, chapter 1, thou shalt not change jobs or become self-employed. Elaborate on that. This is a good one.
Yeah, and again, what I love about these two, sometimes they're so obvious, okay? But I'll always give it with caveats, okay? So essentially what happens when you change a job is that it is a switch that the underwriter now has to get behind, for lack of a better term, right? And so it depends on your circumstance for changing the job. Obviously we've had, unfortunate stories where clients have either been lost their job or been laid off in the process. And so we go through a lot of verifications throughout the underwriting process. Sometimes clients think, oh, I'm pre-qualified, I'm fine. But just the pre-qual itself, none of it matters until all the money changes hands and it's stamped and you've handed the deed. And so we want to remind clients, look, if you're going to make a change or if a change is made, you got to let us know right away. Some clients fail to tell us, and I don't know why they fail to tell us. We tell them not to tell us, but they don't share it. And then we go to do a verification of employment and their employer's like, they no longer work here. So for us, it's like understanding the number one thing for the client in this rule is understand that you're going to go through multiple layers of verification to ensure that you are currently working the job that we pre-qualified you for, right? Or the amount of money that you're making is there. Now I'll say this, or become self-employed. The reason why we talk about not changing jobs as well is because it's very important for a client to understand the way you are paid is how the underwriter underwrites the income. So for example, if you're paid hourly and you take a job that moves you to a commission because you're going to make more money, well, that's great, but the underwriter has no bearing to say that what that commission is going to look like. They need history of it. Same thing with self-employed. You become self-employed. Yeah, I'm making, I'm selling, 2 houses, or I'm closing 10 loans a month. Oh yeah, you're making, but you only done it for 2 months. Well, we don't know if it's going to last, if it's like, what's going on. So again, that's why we say don't become self-employed. And I'll put a little asterisk there with self-employed right now. It is a very difficult thing in this pandemic for us to, if you are self-employed, be ready to, if you've been self-employed for a while and you're going to get qualified, be ready to give a lot of information, a lot of documentation, way more than we've needed in the past for a conventional borrower. It is something of which I've never seen, and I've been in the industry since 2008, and it has become a very difficult challenge for us to work with self-employed borrowers. We feel bad for them actually right now. They're getting the short end of the stick because of some of these pandemic rules. But again, that's number one. Don't change jobs. Keep your job. Stay steady. So
now, I want to add something to that, just in case the audience or something maybe it may be okay for the underwriter as long as they're in the same field, possibly.
Correct. So we've had borrowers that, they get an offer to take another job, and we know when that job is going to start, and it's in the same field or it's a promotion. Like, by all means, our job is not to hold you back. We don't want you to not take that promotion. We just need you to communicate. If someone's like, hey, I've got this job, I've been here 4 years, all of a sudden this fell in my lap, and they're giving me a promotion, or it's a job offer with another company in the same line of work, making more money, great. Just communicate it. And then we can then change it, get it to the underwriter and say, hey, here's your offer letter. Here's what's going on. Here's why they made the change. And then we can verify it through the new employer what's going on. A really good point, because it's not that we don't want you to change jobs or we don't want you to take that promotion. We just have to know. You just got to be able to tell us everything. So,
Cool. I like that. Going on to verse 2. Thou shalt not buy a car, truck, van unless thou plan to live in it. I love it.
Exactly. Same sort of thing, right? Like, we have qualified you under a specific set of circumstances, and when you change those circumstances, it could blow your deal up, right? Now again, kind of the same caveat as the last one. Some clients have said, hey, we got to buy a new car. Does this work within our qualification? Well, yes. If your car, engine dies and you need to get a new car, okay. My thing is like, well, let's look at it first, especially if we're in the process. Let's make sure we dial in the documentation that you're going to inevitably have to provide. We'll go from there. But for the most part, it's like clients sometimes think, oh, well, again, I'm already qualified. Why does it matter? It doesn't matter. And sometimes it's as simple as I had a car payment that was $350 and I bought a new car and now it's $275. Well, why does it matter? Well, it still matters because now the debt's different. So again, we have to document what's happened to the underwriter, even if it's improved your situation, right? You refinance your car. You didn't buy one, but you refinanced to get a lower payment. We still need that documentation. So just be prepared when they change stuff, to have to make that move.
And it's good, just to let them know, like, this is not a check with mom or check with dad. This is just letting the person know that's not in your day-to-day, but trying to do things in your favor, that, hey, this is going to work if you work with us. And then we have all the documentation as we go, so that when we get to the end, which we'll talk about, it won't be as much. It'll just be, oh yeah, I know. I already have this for you.
Yep, exactly.
So, and as we move on to verse 3, number 3, thou shalt not use credit cards or let your payments fall behind.
Right.
Should know, but what?
You should be. But again, we've had those instances. Some are unbeknownst to borrowers, right? An old credit card that decides they want to charge the annual membership fee, and you don't realize it, and all of a sudden that annual membership fee is late, right? Now you've got to unwind that, because late payments on a credit report impact the borrower's ability, or the underwriter's ability to put their stamp of approval on it. So things that fall behind, Fannie Mae, which is the Fannie and Freddie main purchasers of a lot of the loans, and who puts their stamp on a lot of stuff, if there's any late or back payments that are owed on debt, that has to be brought current before you can close. Not only that, in some cases, if it's dramatic enough, they could require you to pull a new credit report. Now, we fight hard to not have to do that, but in some cases, that is something that could happen. And if you pull a new credit report, it could change the outcome of the the underwrite. But yeah, I mean, my thing with clients when it comes to the credit cards is try not to use them. If you have them, just make sure you're making your regularly scheduled monthly payments. So,
Right.
yep.
Yep, that makes sense. Number 4, thou shalt not spend money you have saved for your down payment.
Correct. Right. Yes. Yes. So again, this is the process of understanding that from the start of the prequal to the end of when you get the keys to your house, they will look through your stuff and think about it like this ad nauseum. And so if you're like, hey, I've got 15 grand, and then all of a sudden the bar 3 weeks into the process, a documentation has expired, or they see something, so they have to get something updated, and the 15 has become 11, and you need $11,300. Guess what we're scrambling to find 3 days before your closing? The $300 that you need because you spent all the money. Now, again, I typically counsel borrowers, keep things as close to the vest as you can, do your normal thing, but you could be asked to provide updated bank statements, and nobody wants to be scrambling 3 days before closing to come up with a few $100s on that side. And some clients just think, well, it's no big deal. I'll get it from mom. I'll get it from dad. I'll get it from this. I'll get it from that. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. We have to verify all of the funds that are coming for the down payment. 100%. Yep.
Moving on, we're doing good. Number 5, thou shalt not buy furniture before you buy the house.
Correct. 2 reasons why you don't want to do that. You never want to put the cart before the horse. It's like bad luck, right? You buy that big old bed and that nice couch, and then the LO, not us, some other loan officer, some other company's like, sorry, you don't get the loan. Now you've got, a king size bed that you got to put in your, apartment or your house that you're not buying, and you're stuck. So, that would be the worst thing that would happen to a borrower is, all of a sudden they buy the furniture and you get stuck. So that one's a little bit more of, don't want to put the cart before the horse, take a deep breath, don't buy furniture when you haven't closed on the house. I think you can go browsing and you can go shopping and you can get an idea. I promise you this, that 0% interest deal that they're going to give you today, they'll give you after you close your house. They're all, don't get bought into the salesman, car guy, or the salesman, furniture guy that's like, oh no, it's not going to be there. I promise you, that deal, if you go back to them in 3 weeks and they still have that king size bed, they'll sell it to you, and you just say, I want the 0%, they'll give it to you. So I think sometimes people get roped into that and they don't realize that you're going to be okay. So,
Yep. On number 6, so verse 6, thou shalt not originate any new inquiries on your credit report.
Yeah, 100%. So you can't, again, this is like, well, I just want to know if I could buy this piece of furniture. Don't worry about it, right? I just want to know if I could buy that car, right? Anytime you start doing those things, it gives an underwriter a queasy feeling, right? And those inquiries, while it may not have an impact on your score, we do a soft pull. So the idea behind this is we do a soft credit pull at the end of the transaction, not a hard pull, but they do a soft credit pull to verify that everything that you had at the beginning is either better or similar to what you had at the end. And if you have 3 or 4 inquiries that show up, you're going to have to explain those. And again, you want to make sure that if you don't have them, it makes your life easier. So try to avoid those things. Now, here's what I would tell you on the buy side, because it happens a lot with clients. Most of the time, things like utilities and those they'll ask, you can do those. They aren't typically hard inquiries. Okay. But you could ask if someone, someone's trying to prepare the week before and they're talking to Cox or APS or whoever, and they're trying to get stuff going. You can do those. Just ask them, is it a hard or soft? Most of the time, they're just soft pulls. And again, if something like APS shows up, you might have to explain it to an underwriter, but that's worst case. Most of the time, it's stuff we see like cars and credit cards and all that sort of stuff. So,
and the things that, just to reiterate, the things that you're saying is they're trying to prepare themselves for what they're going to need for the new house, and they may pull. Yes. I just want to take a little short pause as we go through these pretty quickly. Make sure that any comments or concerns or questions that they may have, you can post them at the on our YouTube page, and we'll also have Eric back, and we'll leave his email, not email address, but where you can find and contact him, so that if you have some personal questions, you can ask him specifically. All right, moving on to number 7. Thou shalt not make any large deposits into your bank account.
Correct. Right. So I'll give you a kind of the boring guideline on it.
Okay? Oh, okay. So no drug dealer transactions. No cash.
Yeah. I mean, again, this comes back to the whole verification of everything, right? So the rule of thumb is that if the deposit is 25% or more of your income, it's considered a large deposit. If the sum aggregate of deposits that are outside of your normal payroll are greater than 25%, they're going to ask about it, right? You have clients that are like, well, I make $5,000 a month. If I put 300, 300, 300, 300, 300, 300 every different time, well, the aggregate of all those deposits exceeds your income level. Okay. So the 25%. So they're going to then just ask about what all those deposits are. So the bulk of it means we're going to verify it. When we do the pre-qual on the front side, Salem, we're going to look at your bank statement and make sure there's no large deposits. Anytime you have large deposits, though, you just have to be willing to explain them, and then try. And again, once you've verified all of it, just don't start putting more and more money in. It goes back to the idea of, don't spend the money for your down payment, right? Because if you spend it and then all of a sudden you put some random amount in and they ask for verification, now you're going to have to start explaining it a little bit more.
Exactly. So. And then they're just trying to, for a better, lack of a better term, find out where this money is coming from, making sure that it's coming from you and that they're comfortable with, like, this person can do this for the duration of the loan based off of the information that we have on this particular pool.
Correct, because we have all sorts of rules and regulations, bank acts and stuff where we have to be able to, justify and verify the deposits that are in somebody's accounts. And so, a lot of money movement and large deposits, we have to make sure that we're doing the right thing on our side within the financial world. So
no, that makes sense. All right, number 8, or verse 8, as we call it, thou shalt not change bank accounts.
Right, same sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay, and we've had clients, they're like, hey, I'm moving, and this happens a lot with people that are relocating, right?
Okay.
Maybe somebody back east has a bank with PNC Bank and they want to move to Wells Fargo, or somebody that's maybe more local here, and that's fine. You can do that, but again, you have to understand when you move that money is now in a different account that we have to verify and all that stuff. So again, that kind of goes into if this is something that's going to happen. Another reason why these are good commandments too is that if your clients know these ahead of time, they can let the loan officer, they can let us know, hey, I am going to change my bank account. Well, cool. We just then know how to document it. 2 months of the bank statements of the old account, showing the transfer out of that account into the new account to verify that it's there and available for their use. So things like that, again, we can work through. But our goal would be, if you can, just open up the new bank account after. It will save. These commandments are there really, Salem, to help them save time, energy, and effort for everybody, not only for us, but for them, right? Save yourself the energy of having to provide all this documentation.
Right.
Just wait. So
right, because you're going to feel aggravated anyway, because you're like, oh my God, not again. It's like
the last thing we want to hear as a loan officer is that we kept asking for the same documentation, or that we asked for a bajillion things. And I'm going, and again, I try not to blame the borrower, never would, but at the end of the day, I go, well, I mean, you're not helping us, right, in a way, and it's not to blame them because maybe they don't know, but we've got to work through it together. And of course, if I could do your transaction with the least amount of documentation possible, like, that is what I'm trying to do, right? Like, that's what we try to do all the time, because we don't want to be the cumbersome portion of what they're doing. We know how hard it is for them to get through the home inspection and to be nervous about the house and all that stuff. So we want to be the quiet guy in the background. So,
and what I will add, just because the reason our relationship came about is that from client experience, they told me that your team made them feel so awesome and so great about the process that, like, they immediately said, like, Sam, this is someone that you need to be able to be connected with. So I took that to heart, is that, like, the processes that you've gone through, even in these, as we're not even finished, the 10 commandments, help someone save their aggravation, save sometimes what I feel like the buyer may feel embarrassed that they have to explain some of these things or something, or, you know, feel like, oh, trying to prevent arguments from with the spouse or whatever, if this is laid out on the table for them already.
Yeah. Well, and I thank you. And that's kind of the 11th unwritten commandment, is that you must bear your soul to us and tell us every single thing. And the more that you give to us, usually the better it is. Things that people don't tell us are the things that wind up killing them or hurting them in the process, is what I should say. And that's what you see in these things too, is if you don't communicate to us, we can't help you through it. But we got processes to help you if we know. So.
All right, like this next one, the 9th verse, this almost makes me think of like moms that got kids in college and stuff like that, is thou shalt not co-sign for anyone.
You hit the nail on the head with that one. That's the mom and the dad saying, we sent our kid to school and we co-signed for the education loan, and we did it in the process of trying to buy a house, and you're going, you're killing me, Smalls. Like, right? And we actually had this recently with another client. People, they want to help the people that are closest to them.
Yes.
And so you can't hurt people, you can't harm people for that. You don't want to hold it against them. But the client had actually co-signed for someone to help their credit. But in so doing that process, guess what we do when we pull a soft pull? Now we've got all this debt that we have to then manage and add to it. And in their situation, we were able to save the deal, but you know, they apologized and said, we were just trying to help them out. I go, I know, but that now impacts everything on that side. So, you know, even when we give the clients the 10 commandments, they still do things. I know it's difficult, but those are a couple of cases where you see it, where people will be really, when they make the decision, they're just trying to help somebody else. And before you make the decision to help somebody else, just call your loan officer or call the bank that you're working with and say, hey, if I do this, how is it gonna negatively impact me, or will it? And we can give you those answers, right? If someone says, hey, I'm gonna co-sign for my daughter's student loan or my kid's student loan, it's gonna be X number of dollars. Okay, we can hit you with that debt. Again, let's just get the documentation, but we just have to make sure that we're on board with that. In general though, I would say try to avoid co-signing for other people. A lot of the problems that we run into are borrowers that are authorized users on other people's cards, co-signing for other people's stuff. And so that debt impacts your ability to purchase a house. And so you got to be very careful with that.
And if they're the person that's maybe authorized users and they probably don't want to pull that credit in, you can always ask those people to have their names removed, at least for the time being, correct?
Correct, exactly. And so we've had times where we see it and you're like, hey, get yourself removed as an authorized user or whatever, and that will help their situation. We can get documentation proving that the authorized user account that they're on, they don't make the payments on, but it's just added layers of work that they have to do. That again, we're just trying to alleviate. So, yep.
Last, certainly not least, thou shalt not purchase anything until way past closing.
Yeah, this has two meanings, I think. The first meaning is most loans go through a process of being sold. Okay. So when they go through the process of being sold, the investors that purchase these loans or these servicers do a checks and balances. So if all of a sudden they do a check and balance and it's way out of whack, I mean, they could kick that loan back. It becomes an unsaleable loan. And now you have your loan officer calling you saying, man, we have to redo this entire process because something got messed up. That's worst case scenario. But that's one of the meanings. The other one for me, it's probably more of a subtle meaning, is that there is so much unknown when you purchase a house. That if you go out and just start spending a bunch of money, you're going to find that problem that comes up in the house that now you don't have the money to fix it. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen on every house, but inevitably, when it's a resale, and you could probably speak to this even better on the real estate side, no house is perfect. I bought 3 or 4 houses in my life, and when I buy them, I know that I'm going to want to tweak some stuff. So I think for me, it's about hold it close to the vest, get into the house, move your stuff in, take a deep breath, take an inventory. There is no rush. And a lot of that for me comes with first-time home buyers who just get really excited. They want to do all this stuff. And you're like, owning a home is fine. You're going to be there for a while. Take a deep breath. You don't need to go crazy. Make sure. Right, exactly. Make sure that you're comfortable with the mortgage payments because it's something new to you. And you know, even though we've qualified you, most clients are not going from X to X. It's not an equal switch, right? It's X to maybe a little bit more to own the home. So get comfortable with that. Be patient. Understand that life is going to come at you in a lot of different ways. And so for me, it's like, just be patient and allow it to happen. I think it's more of a, try to be sage wisdom from an older guy to the younger generation, just saying, you got plenty of time to buy all that cool stuff. So just get in your house, get comfortable with it, figure your budget out, be smart. And then as you know that it's working, go ahead and make that splash or that splurge. I mean, everybody wants a PS5, Salem, but if you bought a house, may not be time to go out and get that PS5.
If you can find one right now.
Well, if you can find one, right. If you can find one, you let me know. But you know what I mean? It's like that's the idea. So
yeah, sure. I'm like, I just got my PS4. You mean to tell me it's a PS5?
There's always gonna be something new furniture, new house, new something. So
exactly.
Take your time, enjoy it. Take that deep breath, like you said, and just chill out.
For sure. As we wrap it up, but you always have like some things to remember, and that was in your documentation. I thought was cool was that like that approval versus clear to close, and meaning what clear to close means to them, and kind of just wrap that up for us. So
yeah, so when we do the 3 different stages, right? You're going to go through pre-qualified, then you're going to go to an underwriter. They're going to approve you. Then they're going to ask for some more stuff, and then you're going to give it to them, and then you're going to get the final approval. The final approval or the clear to close, you're still not done, but that's the stamp that says we've checked the soft pull, we've looked at all the documentation, we've signed off on everything. We just need to make sure now the money gets there and the transaction closes and everything works out. So what you're really wanting to know that you're better or more out of the woods, even though you're really in the clear the whole time because we pushed the process through correctly, is that you're clear to close. That's really what we're looking for. When an LO says you're clear to close, that means you shouldn't need any additional documentation unless there's funding conditions, which they would let you know what we would need. In some cases there are, but for the most part, it's the 3 different steps. Pre-qualified, which is all the documents reviewed, run through the system, you're good, find a house. Find the house, update some documentation, get it to the underwriter, make sure the underwriter agrees with everything that we've done and we didn't miss anything. More documentation, and then clear to close. And now hopefully, if we've done a really good job on part 1 and part 1A or 2, then you shouldn't need much when you get to the final approval. It should be checks and balances, updated pay stub, clearing the credit stuff, all that stuff. That's kind of how it works. So,
and usually that process, I know it can be different for like each person, but anywhere from maybe like 30 to 45 days.
Yeah, I mean, really, again, if you're going to go timelines on it, it really depends on from contract to close. You're going to typically see in a standard transaction about a 30-day closing window. Most contracts come in and we're trying to close in 30, maybe 35 days. So that's a standard closing window. Your pre-qualification could take longer or shorter depending on the complexity of everything, right? But if we do a standard pre-qual, the client reaches out today to get pre-qualified and it's like a new first-time home buyer, I would say that process to do it correctly usually takes about a week from when they do the app to they send documentation in till we go through the structure, we put it all together, they feel comfortable, but you can move faster as well. We have them where it's like, hey, here's my stuff, let's go, we got an offer and we're writing. But a normal process, if someone was serious, I would say on a closing from contract to close about 30 days. If they're going to want to do a longer, it just depends on the pre-qual timing, depends on the borrower and how much lead up time they need. I used to be the guy that would say, and again, I'm sort of proud of this now, that I'll qualify you in 24 hours. I just think it doesn't do them a service to not explain everything to them. I think we've got to be able to educate them and run them through this stuff and making sure that they're comfortable with it. So,
yeah, I used to have a coach that said, like, if it's easy, it's sleazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, we want it to be efficient, but we don't want it to be easy. And we want it to be explainable, and we want to have a process to it, and we want you to feel comfortable. But again, I could slap anything on a piece of paper. It doesn't mean anything. It's not until we actually explain and a client feels comfortable. And it makes the process of buying a home, I believe, that much more enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you definitely want enjoyable experiences, because I know even for myself, having gone through even like purchasing a home or purchasing like cars, like the better the people are on the sales end of getting you approved, the easier you feel about picking something and then walking away and be like, oh man, this felt great.
Yep. And that's what we're going for every time.
Yep. Again, Eric, tell us where we can, where they may be able to like send information to you or be able to contact you. Eric is here in Arizona, but is your team goes across the states or what?
Yeah. So my team's all here. We've got, people down in Chandler that work for me, and then all the way up into Scottsdale. Our corporate location is in Scottsdale, Arizona. That's where I am out of. And then they could reach us just by going to our website. So I could get you that link. They could go there. They could see, a lot of this information. If they wanted it there, they could reach out to us. We could get it to them. We've got a whole packet. We just covered the 10 commandments, but we got a 10-page pre-qual package that goes through a lot of other things too. So if they're interested in that, they can reach out to us. But homeownersfg.com is the website. And then just look for Eric Murrietta. You'll see my webpage there, and a bunch of information about me and my team. So cool.
Man, Eric, I want to be respectful of your time. This is a busy man. People, thank you for sitting down with conversation with experts. Eric, I appreciate you. We will do business soon. See you at the top. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. See ya.